Have you ever wondered why some women don't need to speak to be remembered? Why their silence, more than their words, cuts into the psyche of a man and leaves an imprint on his soul that time cannot erase? She is not loud. She does not plead. She does not ask for understanding. Yet she is unforgettable. This is not the woman of superficial charm or practiced seduction. This is the woman who moves from the depths, from the unconscious, where shadow and instinct blend into mystery. She is the embodiment of the dark feminine, not dark as in evil, but dark as in hidden, as in sacred, as in untamed. Carl Jung knew her. He met her in dreams, in myths, in the deepest fears and desires of men. He called her the anima, the feminine image imprinted on the male unconscious. She appears as a goddess, a lover, a witch, a ghost. She is powerful not because she seeks attention, but because she mirrors the parts of him he cannot face. Most men do not love her. They need her, and that need terrifies them. She doesn't play by the ego's rules. She doesn't flatter. She doesn't soothe the masculine pride. She invites him into his own ruin or his own transformation. That choice is his. But she will not beg him to follow. She simply turns and walks into the forest of herself. There is something unspeakably magnetic about a woman who is rooted in her own mystery, who does not fear solitude, who has stared long enough into her own darkness to wear it like velvet. She doesn't try to be safe. She is not there to please. She is not afraid to disappoint, and that is her first power. A man may not understand it, but he feels it. Her refusal to perform, her comfort in being misunderstood, her lack of need for his approval. He'll call it cold. He'll call it distant, but he'll keep thinking about her, because every man is secretly haunted by the woman he couldn't control. And what she mirrors is not cruelty, it is truth. His fear of being irrelevant to a woman who knows her worth. His helplessness in the face of a presence he cannot dominate. You see, the dark feminine is not about vengeance. She is about wholeness. She is the part of a woman that has been shamed, silenced, sanitized, but never destroyed. It is the part that rises after betrayal without bitterness, the part that says nothing when disrespected and simply leaves, the part that watches chaos without reacting because she has already survived her own inner war. And this is her second power. She walks away not to punish, but because her spirit no longer makes deals with unworthy men. Carl Jung wrote that the unlived life gathers in the shadow. All the rage, all the sensuality, all the divine wrath women were told to suppress, it waits there. Not to explode, but to awaken. She is not the nice girl. She is the woman who no longer fears being misnamed. To feel this energy is to feel both danger and desire. It's why some men chase her in a trance, not knowing if they want to love her or conquer her. But she cannot be conquered, because she does not belong to him. She belongs to herself. And this is her third power, self-possession. There is something terrifyingly beautiful about a woman who is no longer performing for validation. Her gaze unsettles. Her silence provokes. Her presence lingers. She knows what she carries and what she can awaken. In the masculine world of logic and control, she is the sacred disruption. She is not chaos for its own sake. She is nature. Wild, cyclical, indifferent to approval. She is the winter that kills what no longer serves. The dark moon that illuminates nothing but feels everything. This is not about being cruel. It is about being complete. You were not born to be easy to love. You were born to be real, whole, unapologetically sovereign. The dark feminine doesn't need to chase love because she has become the source of her own. There is a reason ancient myth draped the feminine in veils, because what cannot be seen cannot be controlled, and what cannot be defined becomes divine. The modern world tells women to be transparent, to explain, to over-communicate, to soothe every fear a man may project onto her silence. But the dark feminine does not explain herself. She is not a thesis to be defended. She is a mystery to be felt, not solved. Her fourth power lies in the sacred ambiguity of her presence. She teaches through absence. She evokes through distance. She is the unanswered question that lingers in the mind long after her footsteps have faded. And this drives the ego mad, especially the male ego, which is conditioned to conquer, categorize, consume. But there are no maps for her terrain, no logic for her knowing, no entry point for the uninitiated. This is where the boyish desire for validation collapses. The man who stands before her must become something more than hungry. He must become worthy, because the dark feminine does not respond to hunger. She responds to depth. to sovereignty, to presence. Not the kind of presence that demands or clings, but the quiet, grounded stillness of a man who has met his own shadow and dared to stay with it. Most men never make it that far, and so she becomes myth, the one who got away, the strange woman in his dreams. The scent of something holy and dangerous pressed between the lines of his memory. What he does not know is that she didn't leave to punish him. She left to preserve herself. She sensed the imbalance before it was named. And unlike the wounded feminine who clings in the hope of rescue, the dark feminine recognizes when a soul is not ready and retreats like the tide. But she does not mourn, because her fifth power is stillness. Stillness that heals. Stillness that holds. Stillness that threatens every man who equates love with noise and chaos with passion. She does not flinch in silence. She becomes more powerful in it. Carl Jung taught that the unconscious speaks in symbols, not words, and the dark feminine becomes the symbol of everything unprocessed within him: his longing, his shame, his mother wounds, his fear of feminine judgment, his craving for the divine, and his terror of being seen. She awakens all of it with a look, a pause, a single step back. She is not cruel, she is reflective, but that reflection is not always flattering. She reflects the cracks in his ego, the boy in his chest who still needs validation, the man who has mistaken desire for intimacy and possession for love. You see, the dark feminine doesn't need to raise her voice. Her presence does what 1,000 speeches cannot. And here is where the feminine meets stoicism, not through indifference, but through detachment. A deep, embodied knowledge that external validation is fleeting and that peace is a private, cultivated temple no one else can give or take away. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The dark feminine has already realized this. She governs her inner world like a disciplined empress. She does not ask life to be fair. She does not ask men to be gods. She simply watches, chooses, and walks accordingly. She doesn't rage when betrayed. She doesn't beg when abandoned. She closes the door with hands that have built altars, burned letters, and buried old versions of herself. And so comes her sixth power: detachment. Not from love, but from outcome. Not from connection, but from control. She does not ask, "Will he stay?" She asks, "Is this aligned with who I am becoming?" To the man who has never seen a woman walk away without fear, she will feel inhuman. To the man who has mistaken dominance for devotion, she will feel cold. But to the man who is ready, truly ready, she will feel like home. Because in her presence, he is no longer required to perform, only to feel, to reveal, to stand naked in the fire of her awareness and say, "This is all of me." And only then, only when he has walked through his own fire, will he understand the seventh power. But that is still to come. The seventh power cannot be taught. It must be earned. It is the power that rises only after the others have been mastered, after silence has been chosen over reaction, after walking away has become an act of self-respect, not performance, after desire has been stripped of need and stillness has become sanctuary. The final power of the dark feminine is embodiment, not the performance of femininity, not softness borrowed for approval, not sensuality flaunted to prove worth, but true, lived embodiment where the soul and the skin are no longer at war. In a world that begs women to shrink, to please, to be palatable, to be gentle, even when their bones are burning, she dares to take up space, not just physical space, but psychic space, spiritual space, ancestral space. Her very presence becomes medicine, not the sweet kind, not the kind that numbs, the bitter kind that heals through fire. Carl Jung wrote of individuation, the process of becoming whole by integrating the unconscious into consciousness. And this is the dark feminine's final gift. She lives her wholeness, not perfection, not sainthood, wholeness, which means she has cried until the tears became dry prayers, which means she has loved recklessly and lost completely, which means she has screamed alone in the dark with no one listening, and then rose with a quieter kind of power, the kind that doesn't seek revenge, only resurrection. She is no longer at war with herself. The light in her is not separate from her darkness. Her kindness is not weakness, and her boundaries are not cruelty. Her sensuality is not a trap, but a frequency, and only those who match it may find her. To be in her presence is to confront every unhealed version of yourself. And to the man who has lived safely in the shallows, she will feel like an undertow. pulling him beneath every mask, every role, every empty gesture of power he has clung to, until he realizes she doesn't want to dominate him. She wants to meet him, but only when he can meet himself. She is the final test, the sacred mirror, the last doorway, because she knows something he has yet to understand. Love is not possession. Attention is not affection. And a woman is not a reward for endurance. She is not a man's completion. She is a world. And if he wishes to enter, he must bring more than charm and conquest. He must bring truth. This is why her presence activates both worship and resentment. Worship from the part of him that remembers the divine feminine. Resentment from the part that fears it. In her presence, he must choose, collapse or evolve. And for the woman watching, yes, you, this is your inheritance. Not the endless self-sacrifice, not the addiction to fixing broken men, not the myth that you are only lovable when soft, only worthy when small, only chosen when needed. You are not here to be chosen. You are here to choose. The dark feminine chooses herself first, not because she is selfish, but because she understands that all love begins in the self, all healing, all creation. And when you embody this, you will feel it, the shift, the stillness, the silence between his words, the regret in his eyes. Not because you became cold, but because you became clear. There will be men who cannot stand this version of you. Let them go. There will be voices that call you too much, too distant, too unyielding. Let them echo into the past. There will be old versions of you who beg to go back to pleasing, to waiting, to hoping. Let them rest. Because what lives in you now is sacred. It cannot be explained, only lived. It cannot be rushed, only revealed. It cannot be earned by another, only owned by you. And this is the final power, the silent, embodied truth of a woman who has come home to herself, no longer waiting, no longer chasing, no longer asking. She has become the answer. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.